The war begins in silence. It begins in that strange grey space between the void of sleep and the chaos of reality. You are lying there, warm, safe, suspended in a state of unconsciousness. And then the disruption happens. The alarm rings. In that precise millisecond, you are faced with the first and perhaps the most defining choice of your entire existence. It seems trivial. It seems like a mundane physiological function, waking up. But if we look closer, if we analyze the neurochemistry and the philosophy of this moment, we realize it is something far more profound. Neuroscience defines this transition as the hypnopompic state. Your brain is shifting gears. You're moving from the restorative delta waves of deep sleep into the alert beta waves of waking life. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, the seat of your logic, your discipline, and your long-term planning, is not yet fully online. You are chemically vulnerable. You are cognitively defenseless. And it is in this moment of weakness that the modern world launches its most aggressive assault. Before you even open your eyes, the conditioning kicks in, the urge to seek comfort, the urge to retreat, the urge to pick up that black mirror on your nightstand and flood your unshielded mind with the dopamine of other people's lives, the cortisol of global tragedies, and the static of irrelevant noise. Most men lose the war right here. They lose it before their feet even touch the cold floor. They surrender their sovereignty. They drift into the day, reactive, sluggish, already defeated by the comfort of the sheets and the dopamine of the screen. They tell themselves, just 5 more minutes. But what they are really saying is, I am not ready to live. But you are here because you refuse to be most men. You are here because you understand what the Stoics understood 2,000 years ago, that the morning is not a routine, it is a crucible. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on earth, knew this struggle intimately. He didn't wake up motivated. He didn't wake up with a smile. We know from his private journals, the meditations, that he struggled to leave his bed. He felt the weight of the empire, the exhaustion of the wars, the futility of politics. He wanted to hide, but he wrote a command to himself, a psychological override code that has survived for millennia. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I am going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm?" He framed the morning not as a chore, but as a duty to his own nature, a rejection of the animal instinct for comfort in favor of the human capacity for action. We are going to dissect this philosophy. We are going to take the ancient wisdom of the Stoa and upgrade it with the precision of modern psychology. We are not interested in hacks. We are interested in a fundamental restructuring of your consciousness. We are going to lay down 10 protocols. These are not suggestions. These are the laws of the morning war. 1. The urgency of existence. When you woke up this morning, you were given a transaction. You were handed 24 hours of time. This is a currency, but unlike money, you cannot save it. You cannot invest it to get more later. You cannot hoard it. You must spend it. And once it is spent, it is gone forever into the void. The Stoics used a practice called memento mori. Remember that you must die. Now, in our modern culture, we are terrified of death. We hide it in hospitals, we sanitize it, we refuse to speak of it. We live in a mass delusion of immortality. We say things like, I'll do that someday. We procrastinate our dreams, our discipline, and our character development to a future that does not exist. We act as if we have an infinite supply of mornings, but you don't. Seneca, the great Stoic statesman, wrote a treatise called On the Shortness of Life. In it, he delivers a brutal diagnosis of the human condition. He says, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements, if it were all well invested." Think about that. The problem isn't that life is short. The problem is that we are wasteful. We leak our time. We bleed our hours into distractions, into meaningless arguments, into procrastination, into fear. Martin Heidegger, the German existentialist, took this further. He argued that human beings only achieve authentic being when they confront their own finitude. He called it being towards death. When you truly understand, viscerally in your gut, that the clock is ticking and it will one day stop, the triviality of life falls away. The anxiety about what people think of you, irrelevant. The fear of failure, irrelevant. The desire to lie in bed for an extra hour, impossible. The protocol requires a shift in perspective. You must view today, this specific, singular day, not as a stepping stone to tomorrow, but as a complete life in itself. The Stoics believed that each day is a microcosm of the whole. How you live today is how you live your life. If you are lazy today, you are practicing a lazy life. If you are cowardly today, you are practicing a cowardly life. If you are distracted today, you are practicing a distracted life. There is no later. There is only now. When the alarm rings, you must trigger this realization. You must visualize the scarcity. You must understand that this day is a gift that has been denied to millions of people who did not wake up this morning. To waste it is the ultimate act of ingratitude. So the instruction is this: do not drift into your morning. Do not sleepwalk. Wake up with a declaration. Remind yourself that the meter is running. The sand is falling through the glass. This day is yours, but it is fleeting. Seize it with the desperation of a dying man and the discipline of a soldier, because in the end, time is the only thing we truly possess, and the only thing we can never get back. 2. The inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." On the surface, this sounds like a cliché motivational poster. But if we excavate the philosophy, we find the bedrock of what modern psychology calls cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. The battle for your day is often lost before you even step out of bed. Why? Because the untrained human mind is a reactive machine. Evolution did not design your brain to be happy. It designed your brain to survive. So, when you wake up, your ancient limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, immediately scans the horizon for threats. You wake up, and the first thoughts are often negative defaults. I am so tired. I have too much to do. I am not ready for this. What if I fail? Most people accept these thoughts as facts. They merge with them. They become the tiredness. They become the anxiety. They let the external world and their internal fears storm the gates and sack the city. The Stoics had a different model. They called the mind the inner citadel, a fortress. The most critical skill you can develop in the morning is what Epictetus called the discipline of assent. In Stoic psychology, there is a gap between the impression, what happens or what you think, and the assent, your agreement with it. When a thought arrives, I can't handle today, that is just an impression. It is a suggestion. It is a knock at the door. You are the gatekeeper. You have the power to open the door and let it in, or to keep it outside. The problem is that you have left the drawbridge down. You are letting every stray insecurity, every doubt, and every weakness walk right into your throne room and start giving orders. The protocol for the morning is cognitive distancing. When you wake up and the negative monologue begins, you must detach. You must step back and observe the thought. You are not the voice in your head. You are the one listening to the voice. There is a profound difference between saying, "I am anxious," and saying, "I am noticing a feeling of anxiety." The first statement is a surrender. You are defining your identity by a temporary emotion. The second statement is a tactical observation. You are the general on the hill, watching the enemy movement, but remaining separate from it. So, here is the practice. In those first few minutes, when the brain is foggy and the defenses are low, you must stand guard. When the thought comes, "This is too hard," you answer it with the Stoic challenge. This is just an appearance, and not at all what it appears to be. You interrogate your own mind. Is this thought useful? Is it true? Or is it just the biological impulse for comfort trying to seduce you back into mediocrity? You must realize that you are under no obligation to believe your own thoughts. This is the inner citadel. It is the realization that while you cannot control the world outside, the traffic, the economy, the rudeness of others, you have absolute, total, godlike sovereignty over the world inside. Do not start your day as a slave to your impulses. Start it as a king in his fortress. Secure the perimeter. Deny entry to the weak thoughts, and only give assent to the thoughts that make you stronger. 3. Leave yesterday behind. There is a concept in Nietzschean philosophy that was heavily influenced by the Stoics, amor fati, the love of one's fate. To the untrained mind, this sounds like passive resignation. It sounds like giving up. But in reality, it is an aggressive form of acceptance. It is the only logical response to the arrow of time. One of the most dangerous things the human mind does in the quiet of the morning is time travel. You wake up, and before you engage with the present moment, your mind drifts backward. You replay the argument from yesterday. You cringe at a mistake you made 5 years ago. You fantasize about a path you didn't take. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, simulating alternative realities. If only I had said that. If only I had done this. While this cognitive ability is useful for learning, it is often weaponized by the ego to create suffering. We need to be ruthless with the truth here. The past is dead. It is an ossified, immutable block of reality. No amount of guilt, no amount of shame, and no amount of thinking can alter a single electron of what has already happened. And yet, millions of people wake up and immediately strap on a heavy, rotting backpack of yesterday's failures. They drag this corpse into the new day. This is a massive strategic error. Your cognitive bandwidth is limited. Your emotional energy is limited. If you spend 20% of your morning processing the regret of yesterday, you are entering the battlefield of today with only 80% of your strength. You are sabotaging your future to mourn your past. The Stoics viewed regret not as a virtue, but as a form of arrogance. Think about it. When you obsess over the past, you are implicitly claiming that you should have had the power to control it. You are refusing to accept your own fallibility. You are refusing to accept reality as it is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." This creates a boundary, a firewall of time. The protocol for the morning is the tabula rasa, the blank slate. You must view sleep as a death and waking up as a rebirth. The person who made those mistakes yesterday, he is gone. You are the new iteration. You have retained the data, the lessons, the wisdom, but you have deleted the emotional cache. There is a crucial distinction you must make between learning and dwelling. Learning is analytical. I made a mistake. Here is the cause. Here is the fix. That takes 5 minutes. Dwelling is emotional. I am an idiot. Why did I do that? I always mess up. That can last a lifetime. Every morning, you must perform a ritual of release. You must forgive yourself, not because you are soft, not because you are letting yourself off the hook, but because you are a strategist. You forgive yourself because guilt is too heavy to carry into battle. You need your hands free to build today. So, the instruction is absolute. Put the baggage down. The past does not belong to you anymore. It belongs to history. Focus your eyes forward. The only thing you can control, the only thing that matters, is what you do with the next 16 hours. Amor fati. Love what happened, because it made you who you are. Now, move on. 4. Control your mind. First, we live in an economy of attention. You must understand that the device on your nightstand is not a tool. In the early morning, it is a weapon aimed directly at your dopamine receptors. The smartest engineers, statisticians, and psychologists in Silicon Valley are paid billions of dollars to do one thing: hack your brainstem. They want to bypass your logic and trigger your impulses. If the first thing you do when you wake up is reach for your phone, you have already lost the battle. You have surrendered your mind before you have even used it. Neuroscience explains exactly why this is catastrophic. When you wake up, your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for executive function, for planning, for emotional regulation, for willpower, is still coming online. It is cold. It is vulnerable. By scrolling through social media, checking emails, or reading the news immediately, you are blasting this sensitive machinery with a cocktail of cortisol and cheap dopamine. You are training your brain to be reactive. You are teaching your neural pathways that the way to soothe anxiety is to seek external distraction. You are teaching your mind that it needs a hit of validation to function. This creates a background hum of anxiety that lasts all day. You feel scattered. You feel rushed. You feel behind before you have even started. The Stoics spoke of the discipline of assent, the ability to choose which impressions we accept. Epictetus warned against leaving your mind as an unwalled city. If you leave the gates open, anyone can walk in. Friends, enemies, thieves, tyrants. When you check your phone first thing, you're opening the gates of your inner citadel to the entire world. You're inviting the chaos of politics, the envy of comparison, and the stress of other people's demands right into your bedroom. This is madness. You would not let 1,000 strangers walk into your house while you are in your pajamas. Why do you let them walk into your mind? The protocol is the dopamine firewall. You must establish a hard perimeter, a no-fly zone for the first 30 minutes of the day. No digital input, no news, no messages, no scrolling. In those first 30 minutes, you are booting up your own operating system. You are establishing your own priorities, your own thoughts, your own breathing. You must be the one who sets the tone for the day, not an algorithm. Build the walls of your fortress first. Only when you are fortified, only when you are armored with your own intention, do you lower the drawbridge and let the world in. Protect your peace. It is the source of your power. 5. Start strong. Isaac Newton's first law of motion states, "An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion with the same speed and in the same direction, unless acted upon by an unbalanced force." This is not just a rule for planets and falling apples. It is the fundamental rule of your psychology. The hardest part of any day, the hardest part of any workout, the hardest part of any creative work is the first 5 minutes. In chemistry, this is called activation energy, the minimum amount of energy required to start a chemical reaction. Most people fail in the morning because they try to ease into their day. They wake up slow, they putter around, they hesitate, they wait for the coffee to kick in, they wait to feel ready. This is a violation of the laws of physics. By remaining in a state of low energy, you are increasing the friction required to move later. You are making the rest of the day harder. The Stoics understood that waiting is a trap. Seneca wrote, "Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life." Begin at once, not in an hour, not after you check your email. Now. Here is the truth about human performance. You do not need motivation, you need momentum. Motivation is a feeling. It is biological weather. It is unreliable. It comes and goes. If you wait until you feel like working, you will be waiting forever. Momentum, on the other hand, is a mechanic. It is something you generate through action. The protocol is to attack the morning. Do not negotiate with yourself. The moment negotiation starts, you have lost. We call this eating the frog, a concept derived from a famous quote often attributed to Mark Twain. If your job is to eat a live frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. This means you must identify the highest friction, highest value task of your day and execute it immediately. Do the hard thing first. Why? Because when you conquer a difficult task at 8 a.m., you trigger a dopamine release, a winner effect. You signal to your brain that you are capable, you are competent, you are a person who overcomes resistance. This creates a kinetic energy that carries you through the rest of the day. The second task becomes easier. The third task becomes effortless. But if you start with weakness, if you start with avoidance, you carry the heavy weight of that uncompleted task on your shoulders all day. Win the morning and you win the day. Lose the morning and you spend the rest of the day chasing it. Generate your own force. Be the unbalanced force that moves your life forward. 6. Act now. Procrastination is often misunderstood. We are taught that it is a result of laziness or poor time management. Psychologically, this is incorrect. Procrastination is an emotional regulation problem. You do not delay the task because you are lazy. You delay the task because it causes you stress, fear, or anxiety. You are avoiding the negative emotion attached to the work. But the Stoics had zero patience for this delay. They understood that hesitation is the breeding ground of failure. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Stop arguing about what a good man should be one." Note the urgency. He does not say plan to be one or study how to be one. He says be one. There is a concept in psychology, often popularized by Viktor Frankl, about the gap between stimulus and response. In the morning, that gap appears constantly. Stimulus, the alarm rings. Response, you hit snooze. Stimulus, the thought of a cold shower. Response, you hesitate. In that gap, in that split second of hesitation, your lower brain, the amygdala, hijacks the system. It whispers, "It's too cold. It's too early. Do it later." If you listen to that voice for more than a few seconds, you will talk yourself out of greatness. The longer you stare at the water, the colder it looks. The longer you stare at the work, the harder it seems. The protocol is to close the gap. You must kill the hesitation before it kills your momentum. We use a technique similar to the 5-second rule. When the thought of action arises, you must move physically before your mind has time to negotiate. Do not think, do not debate, just move. Epictetus taught, we must not only want the right thing, we must do the right thing immediately. Action is the antidote to anxiety. When you are stuck in your head, overthinking and worrying, you are paralyzed. But the moment you take action, even a small, imperfect action, the anxiety dissolves. Movement creates clarity. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. Perfect never comes. Do not wait to feel ready. You will never feel ready. You must act in the presence of fear. Every time you close that gap, every time you override the hesitation, you are rewiring your brain. You are proving to yourself that you are a person of action, not a person of theory. Stop thinking, start moving. The clock is ticking. 7. Focus gives energy. We exist in a state of continuous partial attention. We are a generation of multitaskers. We eat while we scroll. We work while we listen to podcasts. We talk while we text. We wear this busyness as a badge of honor. But the Stoics would call this a sickness. Seneca put it brutally, to be everywhere is to be nowhere. Modern neuroscience backs this up with a concept called attention residue. Research from the University of Minnesota reveals that when you switch from task A to task B, your attention does not fully follow you. A significant portion of your cognitive processing power remains stuck on the previous task. Every time you glance at a notification while trying to work, you are fracturing your own intelligence. You are effectively lowering your IQ by 10 to 15 points. You think you're being productive because you're doing 10 things at once. In reality, you are just hemorrhaging energy. You end the day exhausted not because you did deep work, but because you spent all your fuel switching contexts. The Stoic concept for this is prosoche, prosoche, the practice of radical attention. It is the discipline of being fully engaged with the matter at hand. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman, like a man, on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." Here is the counterintuitive truth. Focus does not drain energy. Focus generates energy. When you lock your attention onto a single target, when you eliminate all other noise, you enter what psychologists call a flow state. In flow, the friction disappears. The self-consciousness disappears. The work becomes effortless. You feel alive. The protocol for the morning is deep work. Select one critical task, just one. Remove every single distraction. Phone in another room, tabs closed, door locked. And for a set period of time, do nothing but that task. Treat your attention like a laser, not a light bulb. A light bulb illuminates everything weakly. A laser cuts through steel. In a world of distraction, the ability to focus is a superpower. It is the only thing that separates the deep thinkers from the shallow skimmers. Do less, but do it with absolute, terrifying precision. 8. Small wins grow big. There is a dangerous lie we tell ourselves, that for a day to be successful, something massive must happen. We look for the quantum leaps. We look for the explosive results. But the Stoics understood the mathematics of human behavior better than we do. They knew that character is not built in the dramatic moments of crisis. It is built in the quiet, invisible moments of the ordinary. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, famously said, "Well-being is realized by small steps, but is truly no small thing." Consider the act of making your bed. In the grand scheme of the universe, it is trivial, it is meaningless, but psychologically, it is foundational. When you wake up and immediately bring order to your physical environment, you are signaling to your brain that you are the source of order in a chaotic world. Admiral McRaven famously told the graduating class of the Navy SEALs, "If you want to change the world, start by making your bed." Why? Because it gives you the first win of the day. Neurochemically, completing a task, no matter how small, releases a microdose of dopamine. This is not the cheap dopamine of a Facebook like. This is the reward dopamine of effort. This creates a competence loop. One small win creates the energy for the next win. You make your bed, then you drink a glass of water, then you do 10 push-ups, then you read 5 pages. By 9 a.m., you have stacked 4 or 5 victories. You have built a psychological resume that proves you are disciplined. Conversely, if you ignore the small things, if you leave the bed messy, leave the dishes in the sink, skip the small duties, you are training your brain to accept mediocrity. You are leaking integrity. How you do anything is how you do everything. If you cannot be trusted with the small, boring details of your morning, you cannot be trusted with the empire you are trying to build. The protocol is to stop despising the small steps. Fall in love with the boredom of consistency. Do not look for the applause. Look for the satisfaction of a job well done, no matter how small. Because days turn into weeks, weeks turn into years, and small disciplines compound into a legendary life. Start small, but start. 9. Discipline brings freedom. In the modern world, we have a childish understanding of freedom. We think freedom means doing whatever I want, whenever I want. We think it means sleeping in. We think it means eating the junk food. We think it means binge-watching the show. We view discipline as the enemy, as a cage, a restriction, a punishment. But the Stoics and the great military minds of history understood the paradox. Discipline is not a cage. Discipline is the key. Epictetus, who spent his youth as a slave in Rome, knew the true value of liberty. He wrote, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Read that again. If you are not the master of yourself, you are a slave. And if you lack discipline, who is your master? Your master is your mood. Your master is your sugar craving. Your master is the notification on your phone. Your master is the path of least resistance. When you are undisciplined, you are not free to choose your future. You are dragged through life by your biological impulses. You want to be in shape, but you are a slave to laziness. You want to build a business, but you are a slave to fear. Jocko Willink, the modern commander of this philosophy, summarized it in 3 words. Discipline equals freedom. It sounds contradictory, but look closer. If you have the discipline to wake up early, you gain the freedom of time. If you have the discipline to save money, you gain the freedom of financial independence. If you have the discipline to control your tongue, you gain the freedom from conflict and regret. Real freedom, Stoic freedom, is freedom too. It is the capacity to act in your own best interest, even when every fiber of your being wants to quit. The protocol is to stop viewing the hard things as punishments. That cold shower. It is not torture. It is a declaration of independence from comfort. That early alarm. It is not a nuisance. It is a vote for the person you are becoming. Every morning you face a choice between 2 pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Jim Rohn said it best. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Do not choose the heavy burden of a wasted life. Choose the light burden of the morning work. Bind yourself with the chains of discipline so that you may walk through the world as a free man. 10. You decide your day. Epictetus opened his handbook, the Enchiridion, with a single non-negotiable statement. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. This is the dichotomy of control. It sounds simple, yet it is the hardest thing in the world to practice. When you wake up, you are stepping into a chaotic system. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the traffic. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control the moods of your spouse or the demands of your boss. If you tie your peace of mind to these external factors, you are setting yourself up for a life of misery. You are handing the remote control of your emotions to the world and saying, "Here, you decide how I feel today." The protocol requires a shift in identity. You must move from the victim mentality to the protagonist mentality. A victim asks, "Why is this happening to me?" A protagonist asks, "What can I do with this?" Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He meant that while you cannot control the plot of the movie, you are the scriptwriter of your character. When an obstacle appears, a delayed train, a rude comment, a spilled coffee, that is just a plot twist. It is neutral data. The good or bad comes from your interpretation. You have the godlike power to look at a disaster and decide to remain calm. You have the power to look at a failure and decide to learn. When you wake up, remind yourself, "I am the author." No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to fix your life. No one is coming to hand you success. It is all on you. And initially, that feels heavy. It feels like a burden. But if you stay with it, you realize it is the greatest news you could possibly hear. Because if it is on you, then you have the power to change it. You are not a leaf blowing in the wind. You are the wind. You decide if today is wasted or if it is lived. That sovereignty is yours. Do not give it away. So here we are. 10 protocols. 10 ancient laws reinforced by modern science, the urgency of existence, the inner citadel, amor fati, the dopamine firewall, the physics of momentum, immediate action, deep work, the compound effect, discipline as freedom, and radical responsibility. We have intellectualized the morning, we have dissected the psychology, we have laid out the map, but I must warn you, the map is not the territory. Knowing these things changes nothing. Watching this video changes nothing. Feeling inspired changes nothing. In fact, there is a danger here. The danger is that you mistake consuming this content for doing the work. You can feel productive just by listening to this, but that is a trap. It is intellectual vanity. The real philosophy does not live in words. It lives in action. The test comes tomorrow morning. It comes in that grey, silent moment when the alarm rings, when the bed is warm, when the world is cold, when the primitive brain is screaming at you to hit snooze and retreat back into the womb of sleep. That is the moment where the you that you are meets the you that you could be. That is the war, and you fight it alone. Do not hope for a good morning. Build one. Do not wait for a good life. Create one. Wake up and own your day.